Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. My name is Diana Skaya. And on this episode, we focus on the Middle East. Well, the region is on edge as the United States and Israel unleash sweeping strikes on Iran, marking dramatic escalation that could redraw the entire security landscape of the region. President Trump has confirmed major combat operations are in motion, and meanwhile, Iran has also retaliated. Now, I'm joined by Łukasz Fyderek, the director of the Institute of the Middle and Far East at the Jagiellonian University. Welcome to World Talks, Łukasz. I'm glad that you can be joining us at such a chaotic moment here with all these newest developments coming along. Łukasz, what is your take on what is happening? Particularly, were you surprised that Israel and the United States carefully coordinated this strike on Iran, or should it not come as a surprise?
Well, when we were talking in a couple of days ahead of that attack, assessing the potential, the American potential in the region, it was quite striking that it is almost equal to the Israeli Air Force. So, and while still vast, it was not up to the numbers which we saw before, let's say, Operation Iraqi Freedom or the Desert Storm operation. Hence, the Israeli Air Force, which put its weight behind this today's attack, definitely made it more. This made the striking package more formidable, and it testifies to the, for once, the determination of the Israeli leadership to change the regime, to change the strategic situation of Israel while reshaping Iran, as well as it points out that the potential operation may be much more let's say, harmful for Iran, taking into account that more than 250 combat airplanes are right now in the disposal of Israeli Air Force. Hence, a formidable force, much, let's say, twice as big as only American forces, and besides the tactical, let's say, picture of that conflict, it also testifies to the determination to reshape strategic or political strategic, let's say, picture of the region. We don't know if it will succeed, but definitely the determination is here.
Łukasz, are you talking specifically about? Okay, so you are talking specifically about Israel's determination. I mean, this is what you've been saying, right? Determination of Israel to change the regime. But don't you think that Iranians are the ones that first and foremost that want this regime change, that has been living in this entire, terror regime and locked up since 1979, since Khomeini came into power?
Look, that's always a complicated topic to assess the support which authoritarian regime has among its own constituents, among its own citizens. So let's not forget that these were Iranians which put forward that regime by toppling the previous one, but it was almost half a century ago. Recently, definitely, most of Iranians are unhappy with the regime. They would prefer to have a more democratic entity. The recent protests or cyclical waves of protests testify for that. But we should also remember that this regime also has some support, some grassroots support.
What kind of grassroots support?
Very difficult. It is very difficult to assess that grassroots support, but usually you will find that around 15% up to maybe 20% Iranians are hardliners, right? Are those who believe in the ideology of Islamic Republic, of Walayat al-Faqih, of that ideology, which those people which are going on the streets of Tehran and the other cities chanting "Death to America, death to Israel," right? This is an ideological regime, and still it has some support on the ground. So that's almost certainly a minority. We cannot say how big is that group, but definitely those people are armed and they won't just let go the power. It's not a setup similar to, let's say, I don't know, Syria in the last years of Bashar al-Assad, or Venezuela with this very different political culture. It is a post-revolutionary regime, ideological regime, and quite integrated regime. So that's why among political scientists dealing with the Middle East, dealing with Iran, dealing with authoritarian regimes, there is a lot of skepticism towards those plans to topple the regime only by Air Force or using the Air Force, right?
So let me ask you this. Łukasz, you're saying so many things. I am going to interrupt you here, though. Let me ask you this then. In this case, do you think that it may look easier to topple this current regime as easy it was to bring in Khomeini in 1979, 1980 when he got off that plane? We remember those images, those videos that came in and changed an entire regime overnight. Because let's be honest, let's even put here the Reza Pahlavi, right, who's right now from the United States is calling on Iranians in Iran to go out, to speak out. You have Donald Trump here, who's speaking out and saying, listen, this might be your only chance for a full regime change. But hey, this was also happening in 1979, right? In 1980, you have Khomeini that came in. So now, you're saying all these things in between that people still want 15%, right? This is the number that you said, still want this regime to stay in power. But now, what about the ease of it? How do you compare these two scenarios, unfolding scenarios? Don't you also think that, if back then also the state of Israel wasn't strong as they are right now in 2026?
Yeah, but so the fact that State of Israel is a very powerful player right now in the Middle East is definitely an important context for that situation. But political transitions are happening mostly by the local people, right? It is very difficult to induce political transition from outside. If we are looking for some regional analogies, we may think about George Bush Sr., who called Iraqis to topple Saddam Hussein in 1991, just after the Iraqi army has been disseminated. It was absolutely defeated by the American and Allied forces during the Desert Storm campaign. And then what happened? Well, Saddam Hussein, as we know, has not been toppled down in 1991. Only the next military operation, 2003, made that happen. So I would say that we don't have too many instances of regime change operation happening only with the air power, right? Or happening or induced from the outside. Hence, a lot of question marks regarding the probability of success by American and Israeli forces. It doesn't mean that it may not happen. Let's consider those other other elements of that scenario which may emerge. There is a probability today, right now, right when we are talking, that that what happened this morning was a decapitation strike. That the American and Israeli forces were able to kill the top level leadership. We don't know if it's true. We will learn that in the coming hours and days. But should that happen, that will obviously change the dynamic, the political dynamic in Iran, and it may
better or for the worse?
Somehow. Well, that's the big question. We don't know.
Well, I'm asking you, do you think that it would change it for the better or for worse? If they were to be taken down, we're talking about Khamenei. We're talking about people here that, have sent children in own landmines. We're talking about people who kill their own people that are protesting to bring down the ayatollahs. All these, imams sitting on top of the, on top of the highest levels of the Iranian government. So don't you view it as a positive note if Israel and if Netanyahu and Trump here jointly together would be able to actually be the ones to change this, terror regime in the Middle East? And Łukasz, I mean, I'm going to ask you, don't you agree also? Iran here was funding Hamas, was funding, Hezbollah, was funding all these proxies. We're talking about the Houthis also in Yemen, funding all of this, right? So how don't you think that this really would bring on a complete positive change in the entire region and beyond?
Diana, that would be wonderful. That's what Donald Trump is trying to sell us. But there is a lot of ifs, right? The people who did all those misdeeds or terrible politics using proxy forces, using terrorist forces, they are numerous, right? It's not only the 5 guys on the top. It's not only 100 guys on the top. If those will be eliminated in the regime like Iranian regime, which is not a personalistic regime, it's an ideologically driven, well-institutionalized regime,
Absolutely.
You've got thousands of people who were involved, who were in decision-making process, involved in different forms of violence. And then, hence the question mark, who will come next? Are they going to be more hardliners? Because those whom you've mentioned, they were certainly maybe perceived as the worst possible, but definitely, well, for instance, Khamenei, for instance, had that element of rejecting, at least formally, the possibility of using a nuclear bomb or constructing nuclear bomb because of some moralistic or Islamic ideals. There's a certain possibility that should decapitation happen, the next or alternative elite may be even worse. But that's only one of the scenarios. The other scenario is the scenario of Iran becoming a failed state, which is also quite terrifying if you will take into account a number of weapons which are in the country, a number of centrifugal forces in that multi-ethnic society. So there is a lot of things which may go wrong throughout that, as the effect of that intervention.
Łukasz, how do you envision the future of the current Islamic Republic of Iran?
Well, that's the big question. We don't know who will should we have the change of leadership, who will come in next. Maybe the positive scenario is that the Assembly of Experts, should Khamenei be gone, Assembly of Experts will somehow hear the voice of the people and will elect new highest leader or Rahbar, who will be somehow less of a hardliner, more reformist or more pluralist or even liberal in a sense. Should Islamic Republic prevail, or should it be preserved with their institutions, which we don't know if it will happen. The other scenario is disintegration, and the positive scenario is like a complete democratic transition, which is obviously one of the things which are on the table, but it's in my opinion not the most probable one.
Do you think that Reza Pahlavi would be able to be the one that would actually help transition Iran from an Islamic state to a secular democracy, maybe?
I don't think so. We don't see too many exiled politicians being as successful leaders in a post-transformatory setup. It rarely happens. And right now, in that scenario which we have right now in Iran, where you don't have an option for a land operation, Reza Pahlavi won't be brought to Tehran by plane by Americans, because Americans do not intend, neither Israelis do, to invade Iran, right, with boots on the ground. So first of all, why Iranians, what is the way in which Reza Pahlavi could influence the events on the ground? Obviously, he has some support, mostly by Israelis, but, well, if you look into Donald Trump's, he himself, he's not putting too much emphasis on Reza Pahlavi, and in my opinion, it is a sane vision, because as far as I understand a number of or sentiments in the Iranian society, a number of Iranian intelligentsia is quite dismayed with the personality, with Mirza Pahlavi as a person, as a leader, and the let's say legacy of his father and grandfather to Iran. So I don't think that he will be a very influential figure in that setup.
Thank you so much, Łukasz Fyderek, Director of the Institute of the Middle and Far East at Jagiellonian University, for all your input with us here on World Talks today.
Thank you very much, Diana, for having me.
And thank you for watching this edition of World Talks on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. I'll see you next time.